worked for the local authority, the village, and he knew all the people who had the hotels. And where I come from, Jacques is a very touristic village. So I was at my grandmother for lunch once, and somebody, like I'm sure people say to you, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said I wouldn't mind being a chef. My father had that, and the following summer, for my holidays, I spent it in the kitchen, and that's how it happened. And then I went to Gateway School, and I carry on at Gateway School. I used to work every other weekend in different, because the secret also is that when you work for a chef, you have to pick up his good point and leave the bad one out. We all have them. So working with many chefs, then you learn much more. So that's really what happened. But if you decide to go to catering, I mean, that is not just working in a restaurant. You can work in, let's say, a lot of different catering. You can work on film location. Say, for example, it's exciting because you do there and then you do the food when they're actually filming. You can work in a canteen for a factory. Now the canteen used to be terrible, but now the food that is served in the factory is really fabulous. You can work in all kind of places. You know, so it's not so just you don't have to have a restaurant and then work hard. You know, so.
There's so we were chatting the other day actually, and when I was at college, because I did 3 years at college, and back then, this is quite a time ago, the teachers would tell us, right, your options are as a chef, working in a hotel or in a restaurant, so they were the only really 2 things you could do, but it's only when you get out in the real world, you realise how many things you can do. So you can work in private houses for really rich people, you can work on yachts like I used to do. You can travel all over the world. All you need are your knives, but you don't really need knives anymore. You can get them wherever you go. Your recipes and what's up here and what's here. That's all you need. And you can go anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I think that now it's much easier for you young people to actually go anywhere you like. You know, you can go to Australia, California, anywhere you like. And because we have a common thing, like when you actually cook and you like, if you love cooking, then wherever you're going to go, you know, they reckon the future for you is fantastic, because they reckon that by 2030 or 2050 there will be more hotel built in China than there is in the world at the moment. And I reckon that all the top job will be people from Europe.
Yeah.
So, you know, and whatever you choose to do.
And it's also one thing that computers can't do, because technology is taking over a lot of things. You know, like years ago, if you wanted to build a car, they were hand built. Now they're built by robots. There's a lot of stuff that has been taken over by technology, but I don't. There's some elements that are taken over with, say, factories producing food, but actually cooking food, restaurant style, or cooking food at home, just home cooked food, you've got to do it yourself, and it's a vital skill, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that maybe the biggest thing that I would say, that you got to love it. You got to, because then it means that it doesn't become such hard work.
It's not a job. Yeah.
It's not a job. It's a passion. And we all got to eat. But I think that, you know, when people say about we have huge problem with obesity and so on, but I think that it's because people don't love what they're eating. You know, and if you prepare it, there's nothing more pleasing. Let's say, see, the idea of cooking for other people is to make them happy. You know, so if you actually cook something and somebody eats it and leave nothing on the plate and they're smiling and saying, yum, yum, that was good. So that's why you cook.
Yeah.
You know, that's it, really.
It's really rewarding, I think, when you're a chef.
Very. Yeah, very. Yeah. If you make people happy, you know, it's like anything, like the theater. And I say, a restaurant is like a theater. Every night is a different audience.
Yeah.
You never perform the same. You know, like an actor, really. You may put a little bit of less salt. You may put, like when we did the tahini, there we put less tahini afterwards. So when we were doing the thing, a bit more lemon juice, you taste and taste all the time, and that's it, really. And then the bottom line is that you got to have bums on seat, because we got to make a living.
Yeah.
So if at the Theatre Royal, if they have a play that starts, and it doesn't work. Usually what they do here, they start a new show and they take it, or they see how it works here, and then they take a chance and they take it to the West End.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, they
Yeah.
wrap up.
Yeah.
So it's the same.
It's
I mean,
the
I
same
always
food,
say
isn't
that the restaurant is the same. It's
Yeah.
like a theatre.
Yeah. And it's the same with dishes. If you've got your menu, you're going to have possibly a few dishes on there that you know people are going to sort of love. And so then occasionally you might throw in a new dish. And if it works and it's really popular and people are buying it, then you're going to keep it on your menu for a while. And then you obviously go through the seasons. You're looking at your seasons: spring, summer, autumn, winter. You're going to change your dishes because certain ingredients are going to be more expensive out of season. During the season, they'll be cheaper, so you take advantage of that, and also they're going to taste a lot better as well.
Well, we used to call our cooking cuisine spontanée, which basically is spontaneous cooking. So I just used to cook whatever was there in the morning. I used to go and buy the fish. So if it was some, let's say, little John Dory that where it's cheaper, or if it was a few portions of calamares or something, then and then you cook it and let it finish after that. Boom, and you cook something else. Sorry.
Have you ever invented your own recipes?
Sorry.
Have you ever invented your own recipes?
Well, no is the answer. But what you do, I mean, you're learning all the time anyway. I'm still learning. And then you pick up ideas and then you twist them a little bit and you do them for the way that you think that maybe is a little bit better. Or, you know.
So this goes along with the Year 7 theme of adaptability. So that ties in really, really well. So as Jacques said, like how recipes might be a really old recipe. Hang on just a minute, Jazz. But chefs will take a recipe and adapt it very slightly, and they'll add a few bits, take away a few bits, and they might take a little bit from one recipe and another recipe, and then blend them and see what comes up. And that's kind of just adapting. So it might turn into something completely different.
And it's also a big circle. So if you take anything, music, fashion, cooking, it's a big wheel. And then it turns around. It may take 50 years, but what people wore 50 years ago, and then it will come back. Slightly different, they turn it different, maybe different color, different material. And the same with cooking. You pick up, you know, you have ideas that Escoffier, let's say, was a famous French chef, and cooked at the Savoy in 100 years ago. It's still a very good base, but what we have done, we have changed we cook with less flour. We are conscious that, you know, the customers have to live longer because you want to keep them as customers. You don't want to kill them, and you know you look after them as well, and that's very important.
And you were just talking about trends in fashion and food, like the stuff, you know, like for example, we talk about English foods, things like shepherd's pie and things that or roast, things that we might have had, which were really popular 20 years ago. Those have all come back and they've been kind of modified, lightened up a little bit.
Maybe lighter?
Yeah, they're lighter, but probably the essential part of the method is probably exactly the same, but it's just the presentation and maybe some of the elements might be a bit different, so it's just adapting next time. So.
Does cooking make you happy?
Does cooking what?
Make you happy?
Yes, people used to say to me, you know, I worked every day for 30 years in the restaurant we had, and people said, well, sometimes you were a bit fed up with that. I am not saying that every morning I woke up and I was really jumping and saying, oh, this is great and so on. But by the time I arrived in the restaurant and I started to do something, then I was fine. Okay. So yes, I would say yes.
What's your favourite thing to cook?
What is?
Chocolate brownie.
Fish.
Fish?
Fish.
Why?
Because it's local. We are very fortunate. You see, it's very interesting that a lot of people used to go to Brittany or around Brittany, anywhere in France, and they would say, oh, the fish was fabulous, blah, blah, blah. But I said, look, the fish is fabulous here. And I like, because it's basically, I think that we should support the fishermen here in Plymouth. It's very important. And also it's very good for you, and I love steaming fish, and it's very versatile. You can steam it, you can pan fry it, you can do all kind of things, and it's very healthy for you.
Yeah.
So how important is it for you to source locally produce?
There is no other way to do it. Now it's very fashionable. People actually put their suppliers on the menus and so on, which is great. But I used to do that in 1974. I find somebody in Tavistock who was breeding quails for us, and then another guy was breeding poultry, and I wanted little poussin, and he said, no, you can't, no, it's going to be too expensive. I said, look, this is what I want. So, and it's now the farmers in Cornwall are growing pak choy, let's say, or something like that, because they know that they will sell it. So it's changing again. It's creating a demand, and then people have it. But to cook locally or local produce, yes, it's no other way.
And also, it's gone. You know, nowadays, if you go to a restaurant, some of the restaurants might have the name of the farm, and they can actually identify the field that cow grazed in, and also the number or the name of the cow.
Traceability.
Yeah, so there's traceability, so it goes right back to the source, which is really interesting.
Sorry.
What's your favourite recipe that you've cooked?
I don't really have one, really. But as I said, I mean, what I like to cook and I like to eat is... I don't think that there is any bad food anywhere in the world. It's only bad cooks. You know, because if you look at the whole of China, they're still alive, you know, so they can't be that thing wrong with the food they cook, you know, so it's just... I also used to say that I would never cook or never put anything on a plate that I would not cook myself or that I would not eat myself. So in a restaurant, if somebody said to me, would you eat that? I say, oh yes, please, I'm starving. You know, so if you do that, then you cannot go wrong. You know, that's very important as well.
Great. Any other questions for Jacques?
What's Cheryl or whatever you said, which farmers grow?
Sorry?
What was that thing you said? Farmers grow?
Quails.
Quails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like
Quails are little birds.
little birds.
Oh, well, do they have tiny little...
Yeah.
They're really small. They're about that big.
Yeah, they're in eggs.
Yeah, you can buy quail eggs.
Yeah, you can buy quail eggs. Quail eggs are like that big, tiny, but quails are just little baby birds about that big, and they're very fiddly.
They're blue birds.
What colour are they? Sort of their feathers
No,
are kind
no,
of grey.
the female is a little bit grey, so it's very similar than pheasant.
Yeah.
The female
It's like-
quail is a bit greyish,
Yeah,
and
that's
then the male
that's-
is a little bit darker plumage.
Yeah, but they're quite. I mean, they're delicious, but they're quite fiddly because the recipe that I see, you have to bone them out, and that took a while. So you have to use a really sharp, small knife and basically get all the bones out in one piece. That's quite. So you can stuff them with stuff, and then you sort of wrap them up and tie them. So there's no bones in it at all. So you have to bone the legs out, and bone the breastplate out, and the backbone out, and it's.
That's a difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
What I do is
They're
I will cut it in half from the back, flat it, and then that's what I
Yeah. Brilliant. So guys, you got any more questions for Jacques?
Have you ever like got an ostrich yet?
Ostrich?
Only once. We had a farmer near in Devon somewhere near Oakhampton somewhere, and we went to see the farm, and he was breeding ostrich there, and an egg is like this, and we broke one. I think that I can't remember the equivalent of 25 normal eggs.
They're about that big,
Yeah,
aren't they?
yeah.
Huge,
So if you were making an omelette with that, then you can all share it.
yeah.
Where?
You need a massive
Lovely idea.
It's nice. You got it back. Oh, you got
But
it
when you mention ostrich, you see ostrich is very good for you because it's very low in fat and it's very good for low in cholesterol, and it's like venison, you know, like a lot of people don't like game. So game is very healthy for you, because, you know, like say the venison, the deer run all day long and so on, so it's no fat. And it's very, very good for you. Very good for you. Very fantastic.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jacques.
All right.
Very, very
I'm
good.
sorry I cannot join you tonight for the party, but
That's all right.
I'm going to another party somewhere there at the pavilion.
Brilliant. Okay, guys, so what we'll do is people that we're doing
Andy
the
is
cheesy
desperate.
twists.
He wants to ask a last
Good one,
question.
Alice.
When was it? I think it was like 3 years ago. I ate a kangaroo burger and it had kangaroo testicles in it.
Did you?
It was really nice.
Yeah.
You would think it would be.
Well, kangaroo is the same, you know, the meat is very, very lean and very...
Yeah, one packet. Yeah, same as yesterday. One packet, that'd be great. Brilliant. Yes.